Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of CEO Growth Talks. I'm Pete Hayes, your host from Chief Outsiders, and I am pleased to welcome Nate Agentis, the man, the name of Agentis Plumbing, and the name's been around a while. Welcome, Nate, to the program.
Hey, Pete, thanks so much for having me on. Excited to be here.
Yeah, well, thank you. Nate has a very interesting story, really a fascinating business because it's been around a long time. He's going to tell us that. And he's also branched out in some other areas. He told me this would happen because I'm going to mention it right up front. It's so interesting. He was recently on the Drew Barrymore show. so we'll unpack that a little bit more later. But Nate, how'd you get into this? I mean, you're the CEO of a regional, well-known plumbing entity north of Philadelphia. How did all this happen? And I know a little bit, so I'm going to tease it out.
All right, good to appreciate that. Yeah, man, it's a crazy story. It's just how things intertwine in life and you end up where you're at. And everybody has a different part in the story. Back in the war days, 1954 is when the business was started. My grandpa was in the Army and they gave him two options, kitchen duty or plumber. Those were his two job choices that he could do. He's like, well, I'm not peeling potatoes the entire time in the Army, so give me a block toilet and I'll take care of that. And so that's where plumbing began in the Agentis family, which is absolutely crazy. That's how it started. He came out and didn't really know anything else. And so he started a plumbing business. He was way ahead of his time, like before the JC Penney's and the Kmart's and the Amazons. He had a bath towel shop with like soap dishes and accessories. It was right on Main Street in Bethlehem, which is like the heart and soul of our historic district back. Some of the buildings that the Moravians built, and awesome ideas, led the way with the trade. But he was just not a great businessman, biggest heart in the world, but didn't know how to run a business, didn't know how to be a leader of people. Unfortunately, the tax man got him because he was not diligent in that journey. And my dad was like 17 at the time. IRS came, made them sell all their stuff, put it on a yard sale, sold everything they had to move out of their house. But that's all my dad knew. My dad knew that growing up. And so 17-year-old had a pickup truck and some tools and started picking up my grandpa's customer base and doing the work himself 24/7, got married at like 20. I was born in 1980. And that plumbing company was in my house. Like my mom worked in this little office and my dad was in and out every day 24/7. So for dad to come home at 7 o'clock at night and yet hear him leave at 2 o'clock in the morning, that was like the story of my life. Like, oh yeah, I'll be at your game. And then he'd show up with 5 minutes left because he's racing there with the work truck and trying to be a part of it.
You were just immersed in this
Oh yeah.
family business. It was already second generation. Was it a given that you would take over the business or did it just happen? Did you go to college?
Yeah, my dad, he was really great about verbally telling me I never had to be a part of the company. But like when you grow up with him, you're sitting in your living room playing Nintendo with technicians on one of the job sites and riding around with grandpa and like doing plumbing your whole life. And then you're at like that high school point where it's like, what am I going to do with my life? You really start to say, like, this is like obvious. Like it's good money, it's a solid career, it's worked for our family, it's something I know. So I got my master plumbing license at 21. I went to school for management and marketing. I started to know once I was entering the college area, I did not want to be a technician forever. Like I knew that was not the best use of my gift set. I liked people. I liked talking. I liked leadership. I was doing a lot of that in the church in my high school days, part of some youth groups and things. Yeah. So came out of college and transitioned then to learning the office work, accounting, marketing, customer relations, sales, which was really great.
Okay, so then the business was yours in 2000.
So 2012, that's what I would call the crisis story. My grandpa had crisis, which was bankruptcy, and my mom and dad had crisis. So in 2012, my mom got diagnosed with stage 4 pancreas cancer. When my mom got diagnosed, I think it was so devastating for my dad because obviously my mom was his best friend. They started dating when they were 13 and 15. Which is insane. And then obviously worked together in the business. And so their response on February of 2012, they walked out of the business. They were like, we are going to pray. We're going to get doctors. We're going to spend time together. We're going to vacation together. So like they were gone. This young man who's worked in the business, but not the leader of it. And I was up to bat. And so there was a lot of hard transition in 2012 from taking it over from my dad at that time.
And how long later did you lose your mom?
I lost my mom 9 months later. So December
Wow, that's right.
2012, she passed.
Wow.
Dad came back.
Okay.
Dad came back to work like, I want to say like March of 2013 and said, son, this is not really what I want to do anymore. This daily grind and
Mm.
be in charge of all this. So me and your mom's dream was to have a kitchen and bath showroom. We were already doing a little bit of kitchen and bath remodeling, but their dream was always like a big showroom and like displays and design process. And so him and my brother started the process to go and build a showroom. They built like a 7,000 square foot showroom with live bathrooms and live kitchens. And we created a separate LLC and got that established. And that's where they both work today. And I continued to take over plumbing and set up a plan to officially purchase it from my dad.
So, with your having observed and worked with both your dad and your grandfather, what did you learn from their experience and the way they led the business at that point? What did you take away? What was your leadership lesson from?
You're a music guy, right, Pete? So my grandpa, he could play the harmonica while driving the steering wheel with his homies down the road as a young kid. So I'm a young man in the front seat of a pickup truck and he's playing the harmonica while we're driving down the road. So that was like the first step of leadership. I learned from
What
my
was the
grandpa.
leadership lesson there? You can ride and shoot or
Something like that.
yeah.
Multitask.
Okay.
Multitask is the key to success. Man, that's a good question, Pete. I think there's different aspects of what I learned, but I think one of the main things I've learned is the importance of thinking ahead, of making sure you have you're surrounded by the right people and you have a strategic plan because you're just not sure when change or crisis is coming. I think we all face it. It could be something in-house, like someone gets sick or something happens or economy change or whatever, right? And if we don't have kind of that strategic plan that is prepared for that, you hit these really, really difficult obstacles. And
Mm.
my grandpa's obstacle couldn't be overcome. My dad's obstacle, and this isn't a brag on me, I think we all have different seasons of life. Like my grandpa was the forerunner of bringing the trade to the family. My dad was the one that built it from nothing. But I do believe my gift set was to scale and grow. And so, right, without me in play, if I was doing something else, I'm not sure the business would have survived that season either without a leader at the helm. And if it did, it would have been at the cost of some good people and a percentage of our customer base.
Yeah, and so the business has done well, threefold since 2012, is
Threefold.
that right?
Yeah, three times the size, three times the income, expanding our territory, new services my dad's dreamed of, and working with CMOs and CFOs and metrics and dashboards and technology, just really surging technology into the trades, which has been really cool.
Wow. So you're the one that sounds like literally brought strategic thinking into it. You mentioned there were some things that you learned in that process, but you really brought the ability to scale in.
Yeah, I was at a crossroads. So you're in that spot where dad is officially gone, him and my brother. I'm trying to clean up the culture. I'm trying to establish myself as a leader. Man, I feel like God brought me a best friend at the right time. I was going to church. This guy joined our church and he was in the data analyst software IT world, just kind of had like a background in all of that. He was working for a local company. We became friends and we were on the leadership team together at church and we were just getting to know each other. And I just loved the processes and the systems and the organization he was bringing into a nonprofit. It was like, wow, this is awesome, like so needed. And we're golfing one day and he's talking about considering a new job because his schedule shift and he was having babies. And I just said like, hey man, like if you ever are, I could use somebody like you so bad. I need like operational help. And that opportunity happened. He gave me a chance and I brought him on. And so like I could talk small business, family business, plumbing specific service industry. And he had like corporate world, data, dashboards, metrics. And we merged those two thoughts together and started writing low code 8 years ago before low code was like a popular thing and started creating all kinds of scaling ability by working through each job role and the company putting metrics to that job role. It was unbelievable.
Wow. Now, I know you are a man of faith. You and I both share membership
Yeah.
in the international organization called C12. It didn't sound like a wake up call as much as it was just a God moment of bringing you
Yeah.
something that was really important. And you acknowledge that. Was that the stepping off point then?
Yeah,
Was it
for
necessary?
sure. I just felt like I established leadership with my dad leaving. I had a few years to
Yeah.
kind of like, I'm the guy in charge. I'm the one hiring and firing and making decisions and critically thinking. And now this guy was coming on and I was immediately making him like my COO. And that was just huge relief for me because I was giving power away. I was giving control away. Lots of people were like, be careful how much you do. Can you trust this guy? And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, calm down. Let me settle a little bit here. But man, that was like that humbling process of like
Yeah.
emotionally not being able to
Yes.
work through my mom's death because the business was so demanding. It was finally a place that I felt like I could start to heal. I could start to see clearly. Strategic planning became a reality because somebody was helping me connect the dots to
Yeah.
it for the whole organization.
Well, you've learned a lot over these years, and I find it fascinating that in addition to just growing your own business, you saw some gaps in the industry. Some things weren't being attended to by your industry organizations. You raised your hand and created something. Tell us about that story.
Yeah, that story comes from just like this desire to teach and to be taught. I enjoyed both of those aspects. And you go to these plumbing conventions or water conventions that are out there. There's not a lot in the trade industry. It's hopefully growing and getting better, but it's not like the IT world where there's one every week. You go to these conventions to learn and be educated, and there is just such a gap for service plumbing, such a gap for teaching guys who are in the grind and what is truly an essential business. So often we think of plumbers and we think the guys who put the pipes in the wall. That's a job, but like the fixing and the unblocking and the flooding and the water heating, like that is like life to us as humans in America, especially. So I went to these conventions and there was just nothing for that. And so I just raised my hand and said, hey, I'd love to be a part of this. I'd love to help serve this organization. And so they gave me the shot. And since then, I've been speaking at 4 or 5 different conferences all over the US, teaching service plumbers how to grow and scale, teaching tradesmen how to stay balanced and protect themselves from burnout and care for their families and write long-term visions for who they want to be and write mission statements and core values for their business. They've never heard of a KPI or a strategic planning guide before. I'm doing it in a real practical way that helps people relate that they're not out there alone, that there's other people that are going through the same problems that they
Ye-
are.
And you have a branded entity called
Yeah,
Plumbing.
branded entities called Plumbing CEO. Yeah. Worked out well, plumbingceo.com. And we coach, we train technicians. I do speaking events, working on my first book, which is really exciting. I've always wanted to write a book. I always thought it would be a book of
Good.
faith or family. I have adoption in my life that I've adopted kids that maybe have something to do with that. And here it's going to be plumbing and scaling and growing a business.
It's your purpose.
Yeah, it is. It feels like that
And
my whole
maybe
life.
some
And
affirmation. This takes us right to Drew Barrymore. All of a sudden, she's going, I heard about this. This is really
oh,
interesting. So you've been on her program. What's that all about?
oh my gosh. So yeah, out of nowhere, plumbing CEO got some attention with a Wall Street Journal article and she put the two and two together and the producers reached out and got to do a really fun 6-minute clip with Drew Barrymore. Just as much as it was scripted to be serious, she's just a really funny person. And it was just a big,
Mm.
good laugh the whole time, asking fun questions like, what happens if I block a toilet at one of the parties I go to? What do I do? We had some good laughs.
And by now, it should be in the comments of this post up on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
So,
Well, enjoy. And it'll be a good 2-minute laugh.
yeah. Wow. So now that you've gone through these amazing transitions, just life transitions, you've taken over leadership of the company, you've helped scale it to whole new levels. You've engaged to really just help your industry peers with all the challenges they face. You're a pundit in the industry that's going to continue with the book. You have a title for the book yet? It working?
Not yet. We're still working. I'm still waiting for marketing approval. It's going to be a little edgy, but it's going to be full of virtue and values.
We were talking earlier and you quoted Jim Collins. I thought,
Yeah.
so you're reading all the leadership books yourself.
Oh,
But
yeah. Jim Collins and Traction. And we're doing different versions of that. It's nice when you read a book like Traction, you're like, oh, we're doing a lot of these things. May not be exactly the EOS system, but it's solid. It has accountability and has a lot of meetings. It has
yeah,
departments and has goals defined. That's quite refreshing. And obviously, Jim Collins, Good to Great. You got to read it because It's got the Bethlehem steel in it, and that's my hometown. It helps me understand why it's rusty and not still in operation.
So, as you're coaching other CEOs in your business, what are the leadership themes that you have to go back to help spur them on and to help give them the guidance that they need to scale and be successful like you have?
Yeah. I think a lot of it, right, is you got to go back to go forward. I think a lot of these guys are plumbers or tradesmen that worked for someone and then they decided that they were going to try the better opportunity and try to be an entrepreneur. They had that entrepreneur spirit. So they're smart guys, but a lot of people, just because you can turn a wrench doesn't mean you can run a business, doesn't mean you can lead people. And right, I learned that story even from my dad and my grandpa, right? My grandpa not doing a good job at that at all. My dad working hard to do a better job, but still loved to turn the wrench and it was in his blood. And leading people and creating strategic plans to grow is very difficult. We go right back to the heart of things. What is your mission? And then they say for the business, and I'm like, no, for your life. What do you care about? If we were doing a eulogy right now and your kid was going to walk up on stage, or your best friend, or your wife, and they were going to read your purpose in life, what you were known for, what would that be? Put that down and we can build your mission and vision for your business. And then we can look at those other things, because if you don't know who you are and where you're going and where you feel led, like, and I fought plumbing for so long. Like I remember being a kid praying, being like, God, really, plumber? Like I'll do anything other than a plumber, like anything. And now, like, the more I'm owning it, the more I'm seeing it's God's plan for my life, the more like opportunity doors open, things are happening. My leadership's growing because I see it's my gift. I think when you look at your purpose for life, you connect it to your gift set, you can start applying that to your business. And I really love the thought process of just the humility journey of that. Like, I can't do it all alone. I need good books. I need fractional people in my life. I need coaches. I need sometimes counseling for different seasons. I need good business partners that I can delegate and let go of control. One of the things I created right after I was in charge was a breeding ground for people to give ideas and help bring change into the company so that everything wasn't coming from me. My idea, my thought, my dictation from the top. So this doesn't work. Partnership, right? Try to make everybody feel like a partner in it. Obviously, we're not talking everybody owns a piece of the business, but making everybody feel like it's a home, it's a place for them, it's a place that they can contribute. They're not just go make money, especially in the service world, right? They come in the morning and then they're gone. They come in the morning and they're gone. You don't see them. It's not a restaurant where people are in front of you or an office space. Your money makers they're road warriors. They're in customers' homes and you don't get a lot of face time. And so you got to create places to make them feel seen, make them feel valued, let them have a voice. And I think you really can get somewhere.
Wow. Before the program, we were talking about your use of AI, and you rattled off several instances of how you're deploying AI, which might surprise a lot of people. Like, well, plumbing AI, how does that go together?
Yeah, it's crazy, right? But that's been part of the data journey that we've really worked hard at, where everybody's got box applications, whether that's like QuickBooks or your CRM or HubSpot. Everybody's working in some sort of box application. It's a beautiful thing because you don't have to maintenance it, you don't have to update it. It does all that for you, but I want to see it this way. I want a dashboard that tells me this. I want this to be my KPI. Now you're back to taking data out of these different box applications and typing them manually in the spreadsheets, and it just becomes massively cumbersome. So between low code and AI, we've been able to pull out data and create dashboards and create metrics and create platforms that do everything in one space out of these different box applications. We're using it for invoice writing and email writing and chatting with customers. We even have a widget on the website that helps customers diagnose their problem by clicking different parts of the house and asking strategic questions, which then leads to them booking a service call with us. So lots of different fun ways, and it's only beginning, right?
Congratulations. There's really two different kinds of CEOs and how they view AI. One group looks at it as an efficiency tool, and others look at it as a strategic market enabling, customer experience changing, embedded into the core processes of their business. You're certainly the latter.
Yeah, definitely works. It'll never be under the sink. It'll never be fixing the toilet for us. That's the beautiful part of people, but anywhere else we can incorporate it.
But it's already doing diagnostics for you with the widget.
I know it is. I know. It's so crazy.
That's
It's
fantastic.
awesome. Yeah.
So, and I know you get to do this, but provide advice, whether somebody's in a service business with consumers as you are, but maybe they're not feeling the joy of the business that they're leading. You seem to have caught you. This wasn't your dream, but now it seems to have become quite fulfilling and purposeful. What's your advice to somebody that isn't in that spot?
I just had this question asked by a guy I was coaching the other day. We were knee deep in strategic thought and working through the fires and trying to connect those to his goals. And we had 15 minutes left. And I'm like, all right, now let's talk about blah. And I'm ready to dive into that. And he's like, I want to stop a second. I'm like, okay. And he said, man, I'm depressed. Like I am struggling. I'm struggling to remember why I'm doing this.
Wow.
And I said, like, yeah, if you don't have a purpose and you don't have your why nailed, you're going to miss all the motivation for what you're doing. I don't want to repeat myself, but I walked him back through. There's a tool called the 12-week year. I forget who did it, but me and my COO, we worked through that a few years ago. And one of the things was this learning how to write your long-term vision. And so I just told him, I said, you got to go back to finding your why for life and then connect that to why are you being a CEO? This guy came from white collar. He came from white collar and his father-in-law was selling a plumbing business and he decided like, oh, I don't want to be in a cubicle in white collar. I'm going to go in and own a plumbing company. Doesn't even know how to turn a wrench. And it's like, you got to figure out why you did that. What was the purpose, right? And I helped connect the dots. Your goal was to have a baby and you wanted a better future for your family and you wanted freedom and independence. Those are all good things. And you're a man of faith. So like, why did God lead you here? Just helping him sink his teeth into that. And I think that was the answer for him. It's a journey to write it down and like, oh, I'm so happy now. I love going to work every day. I don't think that's the reality, but I think the reality is you start to see the long-term play of, yeah, I'm going to go to work this weekend and I have a good attitude. I'm going to try to make the best of it because I'm going here for this reason. That's a good starting place. But that's that humility piece, right, Pete? That's the
Yeah.
like, slow down, take that breath. I can't do this on my own, right? I can't squeeze tighter because the tighter I squeeze, the more control I actually lose.
Yeah. It's amazing to see the posture that you've found that works, where you can listen to divine provision or guidance and recognize when that's in front of you and to take advantage of it and to use that gift, or the books from Jim Collins or Simon Sinek and knowing your
Yeah.
why.
Yes,
And you
exactly.
mentioned just opening it up to your team that are the doers and the wrench turners for their insight and input, their ownership. It sounds like a lot of wisdom, Nate.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate it. It's been a fun journey and a lot of learning. And I know I got a lot to go yet, but it's an exciting trip.
Well, thanks for joining us today and we really appreciate it. And a lot of nuggets in here. And thank you everybody for joining us. We'll see you next time on CEO Growth Talks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Pete.